Chevreuse is an easy-to-master character in Genshin Impact, if players pay attention to certain aspects of her kit. Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Now let's talk about 5 mistakes players make when using Chevreuse. Joining Genshin Impact's roster. As a permanently available 4-star character starting from version 4.3 update's second phase, Chevreuse has been introduced to players through the version's main event with a bang. Alongside possessing a cool personality, which may be an upside for many players and a deciding factor to pull for her. She also brings unique utilities to the game, especially since the number of Pyro support characters has been quite stagnant with only a few since the release of the game. Nevertheless, Chevreuse's utility is not as wide as most other support characters in the roster, and as such, players need to pay attention to some unique aspects of her kit to use her to her full potential. With that being the case, here are some mistakes players should avoid to enjoy including Chevreuse in their teams even more. Number 5. Not teaming Chevreuse with Electro and Pyro characters. The biggest and most unique utility Chevreuse brings to team compositions involves overloaded reaction-based perks, particularly through her second passive ability, which decreases opponents' Pyro and Electro rays after an overloaded reaction is triggered. However, for this effect to come into play, her kit has set a limitation that the team must include at least 1 Pyro and 1 Electro member, excluding characters from other elements, in quite a similar way to the team limitations Nilou has set for the Bloom reaction when including her in the team. As such, players who want to make good use of Chevreuse are recommended to include only these 2 elements in the team composition. On the other hand, if players have gotten lucky with obtaining her 6th constellation, it brings more opportunities for Chevreuse to bring much more utility to the team, without needing to rely on this passive ability or its limitations, as long as players still focus on utilizing her with an Electro or Pyro main DPS character, like Raiden Shogun or Yoimiya. Number 4. Not understanding her healing utility. On top of buffing the aforementioned elemental users, Chevreuse is also able to heal, utilizing her elemental skill. It is worth noting, however, that her elemental skill will only heal the active character on the field at certain intervals, not the entire party, unless players have access to her 6th constellation once again. It is also worth noting that her healing scales based on her max HP, unlike her damage scaling with attack, which players need to pay attention to if they want to focus on one or the other. Regardless, while her healing is present, in certain situations players may still want to consider a healer like Bennett alongside her, if they find her healing not enough to upkeep the party at the desired threshold for certain content. Number 3. Focusing on elemental mastery, while serving as a buffer for an elemental reaction. Considering that Chevreuse may not be the one to trigger the reaction, and that the overloaded reaction does not particularly benefit from elemental mastery like some other reactions such as Vaporize or Melt, players are recommended not to focus on elemental mastery when building her, unless they are going for unique builds and team compositions that can still effectively utilize her for other reactions like Vaporize. This means players can build Chevreuse quite easily, as the only relevant stats in her build are HP for healing and attack for her self-damage, while to some extent, energy recharge can also come in handy, despite not being the most prominent aspect of her kit. Number 2. Not knowing her talent priority. In order to save on resources, it is important to know the talent priority for each character. In Chevreuse's case, her most important talent is her elemental skill, as it allows her to heal and deal the most damage for her kit. Therefore, players should particularly focus on leveling up her elemental skill before considering doing the same for others. On the other hand, her elemental burst is a flat damage modifier and does not benefit the team in any other way. Players can choose to level it if they have the resources and plan to better benefit from her damage. It is worth noting, however, that it is also perfectly fine if players leave it around level 6 to 8 if they wish to save on resources. Lastly, being an off-field support character, Chevreuse's basic attack is not really utilized, meaning that players can simply skip leveling it if they wish to do so. Number 1. Not using hold on her elemental skill. Like some other characters, Chevreuse also has a distinction between the tap and hold of her skill. Although the difference is not significant, her hold skill simply allows her to deal more pyro damage in a larger area, as long as players have previously triggered an overloaded reaction. With that being the case, there is simply no reason not to hold her skill instead of tapping to make the most out of her kit. It is worth noting, however, that this difference in her own damage output is not reflected in her healing abilities, as she will heal the same whether the elemental skill is tapped or held. Additionally, holding the skill can gain even more damage output if players obtain her second constellation, which will trigger additional explosions to deal more damage and apply pyro further. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.